Hello, everyone, and welcome to this next session on day 2 of the Future Founders Festival 2021. I'm Anna, and I lead StartSpace at State Library Victoria, a centre for brand new entrepreneurs setting out on their journey. I am delighted to be able to welcome this next keynote speaker. Winitha Bonney will be with us to discuss the journey from student to entrepreneur, and she's going to be keeping it real. Winitha will share a little bit of her story, but really her insights and advice on how to start a business from an idea with zero budget, to the common pitfalls to avoid when you're an entrepreneur and how you build and work with a culture of inclusion. Winitha, welcome. Over to you.
Hi, my name is Winitha Bonney, and I'm Australia's leading expert in helping people of colour succeed in leadership and entrepreneurship. And I also do a lot of work with corporates around building inclusive cultures. I'm really excited to spend time with you today. So I want to thank you for gracing me with your energy and your precious Friday afternoon to partake in this session. I am not going to spend time talking about my background and all the great and amazing things or the massive failures that have happened in my life. But if you are interested in my background, you can type in Winitha Bonney and things will pop up. Who knows, maybe something that a troll wrote, and you can find out more information about me and some of the work that I do, particularly around helping and supporting people of color to succeed in leadership and entrepreneurship. But a massive part of my story is actually one of entrepreneurship. And I was always a little bit different as a young person. So whilst most girls my age, at the age of 14 and 15, were absolutely obsessed with the Hanson brothers. I don't know if anyone as old as I am would remember them. I was really obsessed with business. So business was my first love, and it is still very much a massive, big part of my life. And it is something that I absolutely love. I love everything about business, from marketing to legal to finance, investors, the good and the bad. It's such an incredible, enriching journey. I always tell people that I mentor that if you ever want to be transformed, if you ever want to pursue personal development, pursue entrepreneurship, because unfortunately, entrepreneurship can be a little bit like a toxic relationship. There are many highs and there are many lows. And sometimes those highs and lows, 10 of each, happen in the space of an hour in a day. But that there is nothing that will develop you personally in your life, regardless if you continue to run a business for the rest of your life, or if you do go into corporate or into working for someone. There's nothing that will develop you as much as being an entrepreneur. So when I was young, I learned business in high school, and as part of our assignment, we had to write and create a business and a business plan. And back then, Google wasn't really around, and the lean startup as well didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. But common sense told me, because I came from a family that didn't have a lot of money. So common sense told me that rather than making all this product, that I should just make a prototype using the scraps that I had available to myself, and that I could then take an order sheet, show people the prototype, take orders, collect that money, and then use that money to then fulfill on those orders. Now, my teacher was very impressed with what I did. She put me into a business competition, and out of 90 other entrants, I won first place. But I wasn't really an ambitious person. I was also quite naive. And unlike most Asian parents, my parents didn't push education to me. I think they were really wrapped up in what was going on for them, putting food on the table. And so I actually had no idea, what I wanted to do with life. But what I did know, I had a little inkling inside of me. What I did know is that I wanted to run a business, and I wanted it to be international. So that was when I was 15, and I then enrolled into RMIT, and I started an advanced diploma in international trade, and then I did a bachelor in business. Now, RMIT now has a bachelor of entrepreneurship. Back then, it didn't have that. So my only option was to do a bachelor of business. And that was when I really, really thrived, because I was doing something that I absolutely loved, and this entire world just opened up to me. From creating profit and loss statements, learning about duty of care as a business owner, understanding, how to manage customer complaints, every facet and area of business. It just really, really excited me. Even when I was in university, I was thinking about starting, another business, as I had, tend to do, and thinking that I needed investment. And I just did some research on, Yahoo. Yahoo was pretty big back then. And I came across angel investors, and I had absolutely no idea what they were. I thought angel investors meant that these were people that were actually, angels who just loved giving money to other people. And they just gave people money, but they didn't want to be found out. They wanted to keep it a secret. And that's why they called themselves angel investors. That's what I had in my head. Now it's a lot different. Many of you have that language of what it is to start a business. You have access to that information through initiatives such as this. Back then, to learn about business, there wasn't a lot of information out there on the internet. It was borrowing books from the library at RMIT and trying to hear the stories of other people and to learn from that. So business is actually in my genes, in my DNA. My grandfather was a merchant and used to do a lot of trade between Sri Lanka and India. And my dad found himself unemployed in his 40s and decided to start his own business and has been incredibly successful in that as well. And here is the most incredible thing about my dad. He only got a computer. He's been in business for over 25 years. He only got a computer about 3 years ago. I have absolutely no idea how he's been running his business this entire time, but he's been incredibly successful at it. And his bottom line net profit margin is around 30 to 40%, which is extremely, extremely healthy. How do I know that? Because I am a little bit sneaky and I had a look at his financial statements and I calculated it. So that goes to show that, someone that doesn't understand business at all, doesn't even have a computer or use a computer, can create a successful business. So all those stereotypes and ideas that you think are potential barriers to you starting a business or even being successful as a business owner, there are countless stories of international students and migrants and refugees who have been able to create and start a profitable business and a business that has been quite successful as well. So I've started quite a number of businesses. I guess the main ones are a bounce and dance company. It's a non-for-profit organization that I've had for about 11 years. Most non-for-profits and art-based organizations don't last that long. So we've been very fortunate with that. I also started Amina Ozaria quite a number of years ago, and that was Australia's first organization and online platform specifically for women of color. And now my main business is myname.com. Winitha Proprietary Limited. And in my business, there are no products. It is completely service-based. And essentially, I am developing IP, engaging in a lot of research and creating frameworks, and then engaging individuals and teaching those individuals on how to implement those frameworks and those tools to help them succeed in X amount of areas. So those main areas are in creating inclusive cultures, where I work with corporates, and then I do a lot of work with women and people of color as well. So I've been around the block a little bit. I've had about several businesses. I have mentored heaps of people. I was just sharing with Anna before that last year alone, as far as I can remember, I've mentored at least over 70 individuals in starting and creating a business. And that was last year alone. And I've been mentoring for over 20 years. So there's lots of things that I've seen that have gone really well, things that haven't gone so well, and also in my own journey as well. Some of the things that have worked and not worked, because yes, I've had several businesses, but they all haven't been successful. And, and I think it's understanding, what does success mean to you? Because for some people, it's money, and that's okay. For other people, it's growth, and that's okay. For other people, it's fulfillment, and that's okay. So define success on your own terms. But for me, it's all three of those things. I want to run a profitable business with a healthy profit margin. I want to run a business that is growing, because growth fuels me. and I want to be fully self-expressed in my business as well. And that gives me fulfillment. So that's the criteria that I have for myself. So I encourage you, that might be one of the actions that you do today after this session, but I invite you to really get really clear and defining, what does success mean for you? So I'm going to go and jump into some of the pitfalls, all the things that I see founders or people that are thinking about being founders find themselves in time and time again. So the classic one is getting really stuck on your business name, logo, and your website. Now, this is a bit of a warner here. I am a straight shooter, so I apologize in advance if you get offended, but I'm just going to be really straight because we don't have much time. I want to give you as much value as possible, and we're not going to beat around the bush, as we say. Don't get stuck on your business name, your logo, and your website, because the truth is no one cares. No one cares. What we do care about, we care about your product and we care about your service. We care about the value that you are delivering. So whether I'm an investor or a customer, I don't care if your business is called Timbuktu. I don't care if your business is called Light. Even for humans, we come up with creative names like, Apple. No one cares and no one is going to care. And if you do decide to change it, no one's going to notice. When we get stuck on our business name, logo, and our website, that to me is procrastination. That to me is resistance to doing the one thing that is going to drive your business and grow your business. And that is getting distracted with that stuff as opposed to sales and marketing and finding customers. So no one cares. No one will notice if you change it. Don't get stuck. Really be This game of entrepreneurship is about self-awareness. So be really conscious of, are you getting distracted by these things that are not going to really help move you and drive you forward in your business? Now, one of the businesses that I've had in the past was an online clothing company back in 2005. And back then, to have a website with an online store that you could manage, not the website company, but you could manage, cost minimum about $10,000. So now we can create websites on Squarespace and things like that and do it quite cheaply. But back then it was a real sizable investment. So I got really distracted with creating an organizational chart, creating job descriptions for positions and people that didn't even exist, doing all of what I call the back end work or the back of house stuff. And what I really needed to do was the front end stuff, the front of house, and really get out there and sell my products, because the business only consisted of me. And so it was up to me to do the selling. Now, there was another company that started roughly at the same time. They're now a multi-million-dollar company. And that company is Showpo, which was founded by Jane Liu. So the difference between her and me was Facebook was just coming up at that particular time. She saw that opportunity. She went and she sold hard and really focused on sales and marketing. I got distracted with all the other stuff because I was fearful of, what if this fails, or what if someone actually buys it? Now I actually have to do stuff. And what if the business grows and I can't handle it and then I fail, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the difference between Jane Liu and me is Jane Liu is now running a multi-million-dollar online clothing company, and my stock from my clothing company that I started in 2005 is sitting still in the bedroom behind me. So don't be really aware of what is distracting you, and make sure, your number one job, particularly in the early days, is to get one paying customer and then another, and then another, and then another. And if you have 10 a day, then your job is to get 15 a day. And if you have 15 a day, then your job is to get 20 a day. So it's all about, because when a customer buys, that's validating your idea and that's validating your product and or your service. So be really, really conscious and aware that there are things that are going to constantly distract us, but our number one job as a founder, as an entrepreneur, is to sell. Now, sell can be pretty much an icky thing. And sometimes, as I talked about before, things like fear and self-doubt can kind of creep in and prevent us from doing that valuable work. but there's nothing that keeps the darkness away than action. So rather than thinking in your head and getting overwhelmed with, oh, I'm feeling fear or feeling self-doubt, you want to take action, because action is what will keep the darkness away. Action is what will quieten down those voices of resistance that are stopping you from doing the thing that you need to be doing. Because if you are procrastinating on something, 90% of the time, I can, if I was a better Nick, I can pretty much say that's the number one thing that you should be doing. So whatever you're procrastinating on, be really well aware that 90 out of 100 times, that is actually probably the thing that is going to get you the results. That's going to actually remove that discomfort. But we don't engage in that task or that activity because we're trying to, ease our sense of discomfort or pain or fear or whatever it is that we might be feeling. So just be really aware that that fear is not going to go away until you do the thing, until you eat the frog, as someone once said. There's a book around that too. The other thing that I see happen all the time is people make it really difficult to buy. So your number one job on top of, selling is you want to sell in a way that's going to make it really easy for people to buy. And you want to do it in a clean way. You want to do it with integrity. So don't have anything kind of hidden away, any clauses in your terms and conditions or any, things that, because I think when people get really fearful about selling, and that's when they kind of withhold certain bits of information or, kind of cheap customers. But there's nothing that is more fulfilling to you as an individual and gratifying to the customer than you being really upfront, clear, and honest. So for example, I met up with someone who I thought wanted to be my friend. When we met up for a hot chocolate, I then realized that she was trying to get me on board as a client to do strategy work with her. And that felt really, really icky. What I would have appreciated was her to be really upfront and honest and say, Winitha, I love what you're doing. I want to get involved. Can I take you out for a hot chocolate and run you through my services? And if you're happy to proceed, we can talk about what that can look like and what the price will be. But if not, then that's absolutely fine as well. I would have appreciated that upfront. So the mantra for you is to sell, but make sure your products and your services are easy to buy and that you're selling it in a clean way, in an elegant way, with a sense of integrity as well. Now, the other pitfall is thinking that you need money to start a business, and you absolutely don't. If my dad can do it, he has absolutely no idea about how to start a business. He just got in his old Toyota Tarago and just knocked on people's doors. Like, that's actually what he did. And 25 years later, he only, just got a computer and barely knows how to use it. If my dad can do it, you can do it as well. So you don't need money. And that goes to my next point. Funding is not the answer. So funding tends to be the answer if you have a very technical product or service that needs a large amount of effort, investment in order to get that idea at least to prototype stage, or to make, or if you're experiencing a lot of growth, but the product or the service is not coping because of technical complications. So my recommendations to individuals is that you get a CTO as a co-founder. Pretty simple. Someone that has the skills, get them on board as a co-founder. Because the truth is, investors will want to see results. They will want to see some kind of growth in your business. And what I tend to hear from investors is that you need to have what we call top line revenue. You need to have income coming through the business. That's usually around $250,000. So that's not $25. That's not $2. That's not 2 cents. That's $250,000 year on year. And we also want to see growth. We want to see that income has a potential to grow based on your past, history from no revenue to where you are right now. And we want to know that you have the ability to generate more cash and to grow. So you have the internal mechanisms and your team has the required skills in order to create a better offering, product or service, in order to grow the company and to increase that revenue as well. So this is where I get really frustrated. I'm going to be really direct with you, really direct. And in mentoring, we call this gloves up. We call it gloves up mentoring. So boxing, we put our gloves on, we're ready to, do a bit of punching. So just hold this lightly with compassion. But the thing that I'm going to say to you is funding is not the answer. So funding can sometimes be a curse, because now you have people to report to, particularly if you get bought out by a company. If you don't get bought out by the right company, you are essentially working for another company. You now have a job, but your job is just to run your business. Funding is not always the answer. There is nothing more remarkable to an investor than someone that has bootstrapped their company, who has started from zero and taken themselves to X place, whether it's 250K per revenue per year or month or whatever. And there's nothing more remarkable than someone that's been able to do that without investment. Now, the people that tend to get investment based on some idea that they just woke up with are people that have sold one or more companies, and they have been able to give a good return to their investors. Because what happens is investors are kind of like an ethnic community. They all know each other. They all network with each other. Word gets around. So you'll have a reputation. Perhaps you might have been featured in the media. They will know of you. So the next idea that you have, they will want in on that. But if you don't have that tracked record, you need to make sure that your business is producing revenue. Now, there are some investors that are willing to invest in what we call, early stage entrepreneurs, but it is a lot of work to even get to that space as well. We want to know that your idea has the ability to generate cash, and we need the figures, we need the numbers in order to see that. The other thing that I want to point out, that as I said before, entrepreneurship will really develop you as an individual. Now, I am actually, even though I do, a lot of what I call gloves up mentoring, even though I am a really straight shooter, I wasn't always like that. I was a very quiet, meek person. I have a very soft heart. And when I first started my business when I was 15, my online clothing store, all my other businesses, I was in for the journey of my life. I had to develop a thick skin really, really, really quickly. So some of you might have heard the term fragility last year with the Black Lives Movement, but there is another term called anti-fragility, and it's not got to do specifically with race. It is all around mindset. So resilience is the ability to push against challenges and to not let it infiltrate you, impact you, and pull you down. Anti-fragility is kind of like building muscle, or it's like building muscle. So we need to, by pushing weights, Emily's like, like, oh my God, I think my arms are going to break. We're pushing, we're just doing one rep and another rep. We actually need to break down the muscle a little bit in order for the muscle to get stronger. So as you experience lots of lows in your entrepreneurship journey, because it's not all happy days, just because someone has a company that's turning over $100 million and has 500 employees, doesn't mean that they wake up every day with the sunshine beaming out of their face. That's the reality of it, right? Business and entrepreneurship is hard. So you need to see every challenge that comes your way as a training ground to build that muscle of anti-fragility. So that as your business scales to $100 million and 500 employees, and you have 500 employees and 500 problems every single day, that you have the ability to think through that logically and rationally and stay hyper-focused to lead your company in the direction that it needs to go in, to fulfill on your commitment to investors, stakeholders, other co-founders, etc. So there are lots of things to think about when it comes to business, but the most important thing to remind you of is that it's really, really important to build an anti-fragility muscle. Now, when things go a little bit lopsided in your personal life, that is also another opportunity to build an anti-fragility muscle, because how we lead is how we live, and how we live is how we lead. And that applies to business as well. How you show up in your business is how you show up in your life. And how you show up in your life is how you show up as a founder. So when things go a little bit haywire, don't go so well in your personal life, there are opportunities to build that anti-fragility muscle. So lean into the challenge, lean into the discomfort, lean into the pain in order to build that muscle and to make it stronger as well. The other advice that I want to give you is to build systems as you go. So a lot of the times, particularly if our business is growing very quickly, we can tend to just be in what I call delivery mode and just fulfill orders or just be constantly delivering. What we need to be doing is creating systems that will sustain us as the business goes along as well. Now, in terms of starting a business with zero budget, it is possible. You don't need a investor. Investors are not the answer. They're not the antidote. Sometimes they can be more pain than what they're worth. We're not in this to sell our company for $3 million. I mean, just because you sell your company for $3 million doesn't mean that you pocket $3 million. You need to understand the mathematics of that in order to get that. And perhaps that might be another piece of homework that you do. But you want to start a business with zero budget, because that will take you on a particular journey, because you might be at a place where you run out of cash. That happens even with a company that has funding, $100 million worth of seed funding or Series A, B, C, D, whatever. There are companies that run out of cash all the time. You'll be surprised how many companies are actually not profitable or don't have a healthy cash flow position, don't actually have cash in the bank. So starting a business with zero budget is a really good idea and a really smart thing to do, because if you find yourself in that position, you will think back to those days of where you had no money and you will draw on that, and that will give you ideas and strength as well. But when it comes to starting a business with zero budget, it is essentially an idea. Never underestimate the value of a really good idea. You want to have an idea, you want to share it with a couple of people, and then you want to ask for the sale. That's it. These days, you don't even need a product. You just need to hop on Canva, create a pamphlet, have a conversation with someone, pick up the phone, call 5 people, call another 5 people, and then ask for the sale. Because what we need to do is we need to validate the idea. So just keep going through that cycle. You need to knock on doors. You need to hustle around sales and marketing, and you need to ask for the sale. If you don't ask for it, people are not always going to buy it. They're just going to think that you're sharing a great idea. In terms of what we need to succeed, we definitely need a support system. And this is particularly important for people that may be living away from home and may not have family around them, particularly if you are an international student. You need to have a really good support system around you. People that are not going to be passive aggressive. For example, say to me, well, I can't, I have to go to work today. I can't just take off the day off, because I work for myself like you. We need to have a really good support system of mentors, industry experts as advisors, be plugged into community, and if you have the resources, financial resources, have a coach or a business coach to work with you, because so much of what happens in your business is in here, and this will drive you nuts. And this will also prevent you from growing and moving forward. And one of the things we say in the self-development world is, get out of your own way. And so we need to have that external system to help us see our blind spots, because we have our blinkers on and are so fixated on our idea. So for example, one of the pitfalls I see all the time is my idea is going to work. And when I'm mentoring people, sometimes they're not open to my feedback about how to iterate or how to tweak their product in order to make it more commercial, because they're so stuck on purpose and passion as opposed to delivering value to your customer, because that's being of service. When you're stuck on purpose and passion, that's what I call self-centeredness, ego, self-obsession, because it's about you and what you think and what you want the business to give you. Whereas service is about what can I create and make and provide to the world that will create value and help shift their life and impact their life or the way that they do business. They're two very different things. So sometimes we can have our blinkers on, and when we are stuck, we need those people to point out and say, hey, perhaps you need to switch your lens to a more commercial area. So if I want to give, so just to kind of leave you with 3 actions, if you can, if you have the energy still today to do them, that would be great. But an action that I'd like you to do right now, if you do have an idea, is to pick up the phone of someone who you think might be your ideal client or customer, and pick up the phone, run your idea through them, and ask them to purchase. They don't need a picture. They don't need to see a prototype. Ask them to purchase. And if they say no, ask them why. An action to do today, so before midnight, is to think about a decision that you need to make right now and to post it publicly to hold yourself accountable. So what are you procrastinating on? What are you resisting? What decision do you need to make, i.e. do the thing, and post it publicly to hold yourself accountable? And an action to do tomorrow, because if we don't implement learnings within 72 hours, the research shows that we forget everything. So the action that we want to do tomorrow as well is we want to look at our notes from this session and think about 3 takeaways that really landed for us. And we want to teach somebody else, because when we teach somebody else, the learning sticks and is integrated into ourselves as well. So there are 3 actions for you to do right now, to do today, and to do tomorrow. So I've thrown a lot of information at your way. I want to thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope some of it was helpful to you. There is so much information out there in the world, but try not to get overwhelmed by it. If I could leave you with one thing, it's to stay in motion. Don't stay stuck. Don't be stagnant. Stay in motion, because things that are in motion have momentum. Snowball effect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winitha. You packed so much in there in a really short period of time. There was so much to cover, and I think the questions are reflecting that. We've got a couple of different topics coming in. So thank you to Winitha, and the audience, it is over to you. Your opportunity to drop questions into the Slido box next to the video screen, and I will be able to read those out and put them directly to Winitha. So just to pick up on that theme around people starting out for the first time. We've obviously got a lot of very first-time founders embarking on their very first startup. You had a lot of advice and wisdom, and I think that theme that you brought through there around action, just take the step, just move, keep moving, is a really critical one for people. It doesn't matter if it's a really tiny step, but keep moving. We've got a very direct question from Amir here around how can you avoid for your first startup, how can you avoid that failure if you really believe in the problem and the solution that the product serves?
Amir, I don't know if you're going to like this answer, but you need to get over. You need to get over yourself. There is an obsession around failure. And what we need to do is shift our focus to possibility. So yes, there are things that are going to happen and going to come through our way. We all have stories, good and bad. We all have trauma, right? But we can't let that get in the way of possibility. So if you really believe in the idea, you believe in the idea. So keep going, stay in motion. It's all about the micro actions. So give yourself some grace and compassion. Seek counseling or expert support if you need it. Entrepreneurs also need psychologists. I'm not lying. I'm not joking. It's true. And get that help and support. But the main thing is to stay in motion. So there are one of the best podcasts I love is Guy Raz's How I Built This. And the thing that I love about his podcast is it shares stories of people of how they almost lost everything after 10 years of plowing everything into this business, how they almost lost it, and then something shifted and something changed. So if you really truly believe and your gut is giving you, or your relationship to something greater is telling you to keep going, keep persisting, keep going, keep persisting, but have that cutoff day or a date in mind of when you hit pause and review and make that decision of whether you want to call it quits or not. Because, if you think about the story of Slack, that founder went through so many failures, and Slack was this one little idea or iteration that came out of an existing product. So sometimes we need to let go of something in order to open up possibility to something else that will actually create traction and work. So there's this real obsession with failure. I'm not too sure I even believe in it. It's just, it didn't work. It wasn't meant to be. Things happen all the time. That's not meant to be. I say terrible things to people all the time. That's failure. So we can't stay stuck there. If we stay stuck there, then that's what's going to go around, and that's not going to help move you forward. Acknowledging it, do the inner healing work, and move on. In entrepreneurship, we can't stay fixated on failure. We have to stay in possibility. So believe in yourself, back yourself, because people who want to do business with you want to do business with people that back themselves.
I think there's a good implicit point there around setting milestones as well, and set them against what Winitha was talking about earlier around your values and your goals and what success means for you. How can you keep yourself accountable to those goals? By keeping those milestones and those reflection points in, so you can see if you are staying on track. And the stats tell us that it's often your third or fourth business, entirely new idea or an iteration of the first one that takes off, not necessarily the first one. But that's because those people kept going and applied the learning from the first one. So great advice there, Winitha. Thank you. We've got a bit more of a targeted question now about MVPs. And we see this quite a lot with new entrepreneurs coming through, where people are either building their complete product or just building a smaller MVP. And even with an MVP, people can invest a lot of time, a lot of resources. So the question is really about, how do I tackle this? Should I be doing this? A lot of the data and the information that's out there says there must be an MVP. What's your advice on how people should tackle putting your first iteration of your business out into the market?
Can I swear, Anna?
You can.
Okay. An MVP is a shitty first draft. That's all it is. A shitty first draft. So it could be an idea on a Canva poster that you tag 150 people on and say, here you go, here's the link, go buy it. It doesn't have to be this fancy fandangle. Now, if you are investing a lot of time and energy in MVP, that to me is not an MVP. So even within MVP, we have what we call low fidelity and high fidelity, right? There probably is a middle ground as well, who knows? But a lot of people get overwhelmed with building an MVP and put a lot of time and energy, and that to me is not an MVP. So I don't know if some of you might remember Blackberries, the phone with the keyboard on it. And I believe that guy, I could be wrong, but that person who, could be guy or girl, created the Blackberry, I think they did like a wood, they carved something out of wood and just kind of pretended to kind of press the button. So maybe it was a handheld palm or something like that, that came before, phones became fancy, mobile phones became fancy. So try not to get really overwhelmed with an MVP. There are lots of spreadsheets that can kind of guide you through. Things can get really, really complicated. I think you want to hold it really lightly in the early days. And it is just about, what is the shitty first draft? Like if you were to do an assignment for uni, that first draft is not the end product. There are many versions that you might go through. So what is the most simplistic version of this that requires the most minimal amount of time, energy, and resources to create it? That's the thing that needs to be your MVP.
And that's what you learn from. And you take that into your next iteration. So it's that process of learning that the MVP is there to help you focus and make sure you've got the right fit for your customer. So again, some fantastic advice. Thank you. We've probably got time for about one more question. Someone has already been reading up and has taken your suggestion, Winitha, and has clearly been looking at your website because they're saying, hi, Winitha, really excited for your book, Colourful. Can you tell us a little about it?
Yeah, so I'll show you test copy. So this is Colourful. The design's a little bit changed. So my main bread and butter in my practice is diversity and inclusion. And I guess my passion place is specifically around women and people of color. So I've been doing a lot of work with community, with refugees, immigrants, and international students, first generation, second generations Australian. And I kept hearing the same things all the time. And I get asked to mentor a lot. And last year it got really, really overwhelming. I got extremely burnt out. And so I took my own advice and thought, what's a really accessible way that I can scale that? And so I did a lot of brainstorming. Again, it was just post-it notes. And, what do I get asked about all the time? What are the key things entrepreneurs and people that are wannabe leaders, what are the things that they need to know? Because I've not just been an entrepreneur and had several businesses, I've also been a CEO of someone else's company as well, and sat on boards and things like that. So what are some of those things? And I had absolutely no idea how to write a book, how to create a book. And then this popped up. So this book has everything from, colorism in our community, self-care, how to get clear, get focused, reclaiming your name. So I see this a lot with international students. We change our name to make it easier for other people to pronounce. Do they change their name for you? It's English as a second language, being perceived as an obstacle, as a challenge. Racist is what they said, was it racist? Inclusive organizations, how to identify them. Gaslighting also happens a lot. Allies, how to invest yourself, your 18, conviction, courage, freedom, imposter syndrome. So there's about 24 chapters in here. It's over 270 pages. And it's just an easy way for me to scale advice. So everything that I wished that I knew, and that's the feeling that I got. Like I wrote the book a year ago, and when I got the test copy recently and I picked it up and I read it, I was like, wow, I should take my own advice. But I was like, this was all the stuff that I wish I knew when I, started out when I was in uni. So, if it's of value to you, you're more than welcome to pre-purchase a copy. But it's just an easy way to just give people help and support, because there's only one of me.
And there's only one of everyone out there as well. So on your startup journey, I think there's some great tips to take from this. Keep that momentum going. Be kind to yourself along the way. Reflect, be honest and open with yourself, but also give yourself some space to learn and grow and keep evolving your business. Just keep that momentum going. So I feel like that's a good place to bring our session with Winitha to a close for today. So Winitha, thank you so much for your time and your generosity and for sharing your thoughts with us at the Future Founders Festival. It's very much appreciated. So thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me. For everyone that's listening and tuning in, thank you for gracing me with your time and your energy today. It's been absolutely wonderful. And I just encourage you, just stay in motion. Micro actions, that's all it is, one step in front of the other. Be blessed and have a joyful rest of the evening.
Thank you to Winitha. And on that point of keeping the momentum going, you've got an opportunity to put that into practice right now. We're bringing to a close the formal sessions of talks for the Future Founders Festival 2021, but there is more. There is opportunity to hone your networking skills, meet some of all of the other faces, anonymous faces out there viewing digitally this festival. There's a chance for us to get together and see one another. In networking with confidence hackers. That session starts at 5:30 p.m. So we've got a little bit of time to have a quick break, psych yourself up, maybe remember some of those positivity sessions from and some of those exercises this morning that we started the day with Elva, and get yourself ready to meet and chat and try pitching your business and learning and understanding from some of the other festival goers today. So that will be our final session of the festival. And because we're going to have some fun, and that will be a bit more of an informal session led by confidence hackers, I'm going to do the formal closing of proceedings for the 2021 festival. But fear not, as we have mentioned throughout the festival, this is a year-long program of which the festival is just one highlight. So coming up with the Future Founders programme brought to you by Study Melbourne and StartSpace at State Library Victoria, our next session, we hope very much to have an in-person programme in Melbourne. So there will be a hackathon with our partners, HEX, Hacker Exchange. Jeanette was on our programme yesterday. It will be held at State Library Victoria. You have to apply, places are limited. It's going to be a lot of fun over 48 hours, practically building businesses together, forming teams, trying MVPs, putting together business plans, really putting into practice all of what we've been talking about over the last few days, together with others, just like you who are setting out on this journey. So you can stay on our mailing list. You'll get information about when we open the applications for that, and that will be held on the 28th and 29th of August. We'll also then have the bootcamp program, 2 weeks of intensive hot housing of your idea for a small number of student-led businesses. And then for 8 lucky ventures, there will be seed funding available as part of our venture scholarships towards the end of this year. So there's a lot going on, and all through the year, you'll be able to engage with Study Melbourne programs and to join the free StartSpace community. Come and use our workspace and at StartSpace HQ inside State Library Victoria, join our Slack channels, come to all of the training programs that we run all through the year. You'll get a link through the Future Founders mailing list, but you can also sign up right now at startspacehq.com. So, that brings us to the end of the Future Founders Festival. I hope you've had fun. I hope you had a chance to put your photo up in the photo booth. And I hope you've had a chance to ask and have answered the questions from our incredible range of over 45 speakers and founders who were with us over the last 2 days. I'd like to say one final thank you to our major partners, Study Melbourne, our pitch comp sponsors, Practera, all our other partners, collaborators, contributors. Massive thank you to every speaker who generously gave up their time and wisdom to us over the last 48 hours. And I'd also like to do a special thank you to every member of the StartSpace team who has worked tirelessly to ensure that this festival could be possible, particularly under rather challenging COVID conditions, which I know a lot of people are focused on around the world at the moment. We very much hope that we'll see you again in future, but for now, we'll see you over in the video networking with Confidence Hackers at 5:30. Have fun.